Imagine a flower arrangement with daisies and daffodils. A count of the flowers tells us there are 8 daisies and 6 daffodils. We describe this relationship mathematically with a ratio. A ratio is the quotient of two numbers. You just put one of the numbers over the other to compare their relative amounts. We find the ratio of daisies to daffodils by putting the number of daisies over the number of daffodils. 8/6. The ratio can be written as a fraction, or with the word 2, or with a colon in the middle. Usually you'll see the fraction form of a ratio because it's easier to use mathematically. A ratio is said to be in simplified form when it is reduced. The ratio 8/6 in simplified form is 4/3, written in any of the 3 styles. Ratios also depend on order. The ratio of daisies to daffodils is 8/6 or 4/3. But the ratio of daffodils to daisies is 6/8 or 3/4. Since daffodils now come first, they should go on top. This means that the florist needs 4 daisies for every 3 daffodils, or 3 daffodils for every 4 daisies. This may seem obvious in this case, but the more sets of things you compare, the more helpful ratios become in describing their relationship. Imagine the area where the florist assembles these flower arrangements. There are 72 daffodils and 96 daisies. The ratio of daffodils to daisies is 72/96. Looking for some familiar common factors, we see that this ratio reduces to 3/4 again. A ratio is just a fraction that compares relative numbers or amounts of things to each other, like the relative amounts of ingredients in a recipe. When you think of it this way, you can see how a ratio can have more than 2 terms, like the ratios of all the things that go into a recipe. For example, our flower arrangement actually had a third ingredient, ferns. Along with 6 daffodils and 8 daisies, there were 2 ferns. So we have a ratio of 6/8/2. Reduced, this is a ratio of 4/3/1. This ratio tells us the relationship among all 3 parts. It's a little longer than our 2-part ratio, but its purpose is still to compare relative amounts of things. A ratio is just a fraction. It can be rewritten in many different ways by simply multiplying by a form of 1. Here, we multiply by 24/24 to get the exact number of flowers in the florist shop. We could have multiplied by any form of 1, though, to get a ratio equal to 3/4. When 2 ratios are equal, their relationship is called a proportion. We know these 2 fractions are equal. We can also translate this symbolic statement into a verbal one. Notice that the equal sign becomes the word as. The horizontal division bar becomes the phrase is to. So, recapping, a ratio expresses a relationship between numbers. A proportion expresses a relationship between 2 ratios. A proportion says that 2 ratios are equal. One special property of proportions is that their cross products are also equal to each other. In this case, 3 times 96 is equal to 4 times 72. Now, if one of the numbers in a proportion is unknown, you can use cross multiplication to calculate it. Let's say, for instance, that you don't know the number of daffodils in the back room of the florist shop. But you know that 3 times 96 must be equal to 4 times the unknown. That means the unknown must be exactly 1/4 of the quantity 3 times 96. The unknown value is 72, so there must be 72 daffodils in the back room of the florist shop to build these flower arrangements. Thank you.